Hey guys, Chicago injury lawyer Scott DeSalvo here. I just got out of the gas station. I worked late last night and barely made it home on the gas I had in the tank, and the gas stations around here, the closest ones anyway, close early, so I decided to fill up in the morning. By the grace of God, I made it to the gas station, and boy is it chilly out. I think winter is approaching, or at least as of the time I'm shooting this video. If it's the middle of the summer, you might want some of this cold if you've had it, right? But the topic of today's video is, how do I know how much money I'm putting in my pocket? Okay, I've told you in a lot of other videos, one of the number one questions injured people have, and maybe the question you have, is how much money am I going to get in my injury case? Popular question. That's the first stage of this question. How much money is the case going to settle for? But how much am I going to put in my pocket, right? Big difference. So let's use easy numbers just so that it's easy for all of us to understand what's going on. If your case settles for, let's say, $100,000, how do we know it's going to be $100,000? And then out of the $100,000, how much do you get in your pocket, right? So the first thing you need to know is that when you work with an injury lawyer in a case, at the end of the case, they have to give you a settlement breakdown sheet. And if you want copies of proof of everybody, so the settlement breakdown sheet literally has the top number, the total number that the case is going for on top, and then it breaks down everybody who's getting money out of your case, right? And all the numbers have to add up, and the bottom number is how much you put in your pocket. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that as a general rule, the doctors get a third, the lawyer gets a third, and the injured person gets a third. And that's sort of old-fashioned advice, right? It's sort of old-fashioned advice. I can tell you that in my law practice, I try to put as much money in my client's pocket as possible. And so what that means is, even after we settle the case or go to trial on the case or have a mediation or a settlement conference, however the case resolves that results in getting you money, I call the doctors and I negotiate with the doctors, and I try and get the doctors to take as little as possible. Now, there are laws that require the doctors to cut their bills a little bit, right? So if a doctor has a medical lien under a legal statute in the state of Illinois, and most states do have a lien act for medical providers, saying that if a medical provider treats an injured person and they notify everybody that they want to get paid back out of the case rather than billing health insurance, that they can get paid back a certain amount of money from the case. But I usually try and get a better deal for my clients than that, and I'm pretty successful at doing it. So it's pretty rare that I end up having to pay the full amount of the lien act. In the state of Illinois, the challenge becomes that under the lien act, all of the medical providers added up, if they all have liens, they can take up to 40% of your settlement. And so if if we're talking about the rule of a third to the lawyer, a third to the client, a third to the doctors, that doesn't work. Complicating it is that on top of the lien act, if one of the involved insurance companies, like your health insurance, paid some of the bills and then they want to get paid back, they don't always want to get paid back. They don't always notify you that they want to get paid back, but you actually have a legal duty to pay them back if they request it. If your health insurance pays your bills and you recover from a third party for your injuries, you're required under the law to, pay them some money back. My office policy is that if they don't notify us saying they want to get paid back, we don't reach out to them. But I talk to my client before I do that. So what happens if we got doctors who want 40% of the settlement, and then we've got, State Farm or Allstate paid medical payments coverage on some of the bills, so they want to get paid 2/3 of what they paid back, and then your health insurance paid $10,000 and they want to get $6,000 back. Well, now we're way over 1/3, right? And that's where having a lawyer who can negotiate and is willing to do the work for you at the end of the case is so important. there are literally some cases that I work on where resolving the case for a reasonable number with the insurance company is far easier than dealing with a dozen doctor's offices and a couple of different insurance companies, all of whom have their hand out. It even complicates matters worse when we're talking about Medicaid or Medicare. If they paid any of your benefits, you can just imagine how many phone calls, how many letters, how many faxes, how many emails, and with anytime you're dealing with the state or federal government, especially lately, it's been really, really slow. Their responses are slow, they don't get back to you, it takes them a really long time to process any of your requests, and that's just time that you end up having to wait before you get your settlement money, and it's also going to reduce the settlement money. But it's really going to depend on the size of your case, how strong your case was, and whether you're settling it in a compromised position. So, I shot a couple of videos now on how to tell if you have a strong case. And I always say, can the other side say that you were at fault or partially at fault for your injury, because that reduces the value of your case. Why is that important in what we're talking about now? Well, it's going to affect what we ultimately can get in a settlement for you, right? So let's say you've got, $50,000 in medical bills, but I settle your case for $200,000, right? We're not going to have a problem with these liens. It's going to be easy because we got 4 times the medical bills. There's going to be plenty of money in the settlement, and that doesn't mean that I just pay everybody everything they want. I still negotiate them down for my clients, because every dollar I take away from a doctor or away from an insurance company goes right into your pocket. I don't get any more money for doing it, but it's my job as a lawyer to do it for people. So, while it's true that the one-third is sometimes accurate, it really is a case-by-case situation. So on really, really rough cases, I'll be honest with you, the doctors ended up eating up way more than 40%. In some cases, 50% of the medical bills and insurance claims against the settlement proceeds. And now my client and I are literally having to work out 40% of this. So let's say it's a $10,000 settlement on a small case. Client doesn't want to go to trial on it. I don't really want to put a case like that into suit and fight it all the way unless I have to. And so we agree to a $10,000 settlement. We're giving $6,000 away. Usually, I'll be honest with you, I take my case costs and then I split what's left with the client. I make sure the client puts $1 more in their pocket than I do, okay? A lot of my lawyer friends yell at me for cutting my attorney's fees, but on cases like that, yeah, granted, it was a massive amount of time for me to settle the case, work it up, and then a lot more time working out all these liens on a small case. But that's luck of the draw. If you're dedicated to helping people, you're gonna have cases that are not that profitable, that don't pay you very much and sometimes pay you nothing. So, as always, my advice, I'm such a chauvinist. I really do believe working with a good lawyer is the best thing for anyone who's been involved in an injury case, because a good lawyer is going to be able to do all the math for you. Now let's take the same scenario that we were talking about before, the $100,000. First thing is, without a lawyer, you're never going to get to $100,000. So extensive studies have been done about unrepresented people versus represented people and what they end up with. Insurance companies will call people early on and try and settle the case real quick. Early on in the case, they'll offer you $5,000 before you really know how much medical care you need or what the diagnosis is. And a lot of people jump at that and they're like, yeah, give me the papers. They sign them, they get a check for $5,000, and 2 months later they find out they need surgery. And then they can't go back and ask for more. So that's one of the reasons why insurance companies don't want people to be represented, right? Another reason is you're not going to get to that high number. So even if you have all this medical, you have all this situation, they're not going to offer you $100,000. They're going to offer you $20,000, and then they're going to say, but we'll take care of the bills. So here's what happens. They offer you $100,000 in a case I represent you in. They offer you $20,000, right? And then they say, we'll deal with all the medical liens. Well, they have bargaining power with all these medical providers, and anyone who doesn't have a lien or a legal claim, they can ignore. And then those medical providers can sue you later, and the insurance company doesn't care. The other thing is, you think, okay, well, I had $50,000 in medical bills, and they gave me 20 on top of it. They said they'd pay the 50, and I'm getting 20, so it's really like a $70,000 settlement, and I did it without a lawyer. Not true, not true. They're going to take those 50,000 and they're going to cut deals on those 50,000. They're going to end up paying maybe $20,000 for those medical bills. So you're getting a $40,000 gross settlement without a lawyer, or a $100,000 gross settlement with a lawyer. And the lawyer's going to do the same thing the insurance company would do, except your lawyer will be honest about it. They'll tell you, yeah, no, we didn't have to pay. You're not going to get a settlement statement from a lawyer that says case settled for $100,000, we paid all $50,000 of the medical bills. No, it'll say the bill from Dr. A or Hospital A was $20,000, we paid him $6,000. And the bill from Dr. A is $11,000, we paid him $4,000. So you'll see the deductions your lawyer gets you on the medical bills, and then you end up putting way more money in your pocket. So, especially on the substantial cases, anything with an injury that is, has any permanent, where you got any permanent problems or anything like that, boy, you really need to be careful about that stuff. You know what I mean? You need to make smart decisions, and it's always a smart decision to get a consultation from a lawyer, because it's free. And if you get a consultation from a good lawyer, they'll actually be nice to you. They'll talk to you on the phone. They'll find out what's on your mind. The way I do it is I kind of introduce myself, we chit-chat for a minute, and then I say, okay, what happened? Tell me what happened. Then after they tell me briefly what happened, I start asking detailed questions so I can start answering the questions they have. Get the information I need to answer their questions, right? And then, if I think it's a case, I'll offer to represent them. But if they're not, if they don't want to do it, that's okay too. So I hope this information helps you. The third rule is not a terrible rule, but I always shoot to get more for my clients. There are some cases where there's nothing that can be done. You're going to end up with not very much money in your pocket, but you at least won't have medical bills hanging over your head. And you'll always get a settlement statement at the end of the case showing you where every dollar went, okay? So, if you're working with another lawyer, you should demand a settlement statement at the end of the case so you know what the breakdown is, right? Fair is fair. Somebody else handling your money, you have a right to know what they're doing with that money, okay? So thanks for watching the video. I hope you and your family are well. And if I can be of assistance, if you need help or you know anybody who needs a lawyer, please send them my way by just calling 312-500-4500. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my videos and you want to help me out, would really help me out if you gave me a 5-star review on Google. I'll leave a link in the description. Tons of useful tools on my website. I'll leave those links in the description too. Thank you for watching and have a great day.